If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it.
So Heat win game one. We now move on to game two. The Knicks will look to even the series on Tuesday at Madison Square Garden. Knicks could be facing a Heat team that is further shorthanded. As we mentioned, Butler, he did not hold a post-game press conference after the game. He only had the comments to Cassidy Hubbard after the game in the post-game interview where she asked him, how's the ankle feeling? He said, quote, like a rolled ankle. So he was not moving well leaving the court. People were in the locker room said he wasn't really moving well in the locker room. So we'll see what his status is for game two. Eric Spoelstra said that he will have a better idea today as we record on Monday, whether or not Butler will be a go for game two or what he'll be beyond game two. Meanwhile, all eyes now on Julius Randle. I think that there were parts in that game where it felt like Randle was missed, and he did work out in game one, but did not suit up, obviously. He was said to not look that great in the warm-ups that he did do. So Randle got shots up, wasn't able to play. So as we hit to game two, 7:30 on Tuesday, the two of the biggest stars in the series, two of the top four players in this series, both now have injured ankles, one trying to recover, the other just happening and now trying to see if he can play through it. If this you don't usually do this, but I want to kind of put you in the Heat's perspective, Tommy. You're coming in, you're up 1-0. You have now home court advantage. Jimmy Butler has this ankle injury that we know is something. It's not nothing, clearly. Do you rest Jimmy Butler in game two, regardless? Because you know Jimmy's going to want to play. That goes to my question. Do you rest Butler in game two and say, hey, we got till Saturday to play the next game. We'll get you right then. Or do you try to get him to go in game two and say, hey, we win game two, then the series is essentially over, and we can just try to get one game in Miami and we'll be fine?
Yeah, I'm sitting Jimmy Butler, and that's what I expect them to do. You know, Butler's going to want to play, but there were multiple reports that his ankle swelled up, size of a baseball, and we'll see. They'll pregame it. They'll probably list him as questionable, maybe doubtful, and bump him up to questionable. I would be surprised if Butler played. And again, like you said, they won game one. You want to come in and steal one of the first two games in the Garden. You got one in your pocket. There's a lot of things that factor into this. Only 1 day of rest between games 1 and 2, and then you have the 3 full days off between games 3 and 4. So I really think it behooves Miami to kind of think big picture here. Yes, you love the idea of putting a stranglehold on the series and winning 2 games in New York. But I like the idea better of having a healthy Jimmy Butler, because let's be honest, you're only going to go as far as Jimmy Butler takes you. And now, if you're the Heat and Spoelstra and Riley are looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference and saying, Embiid's not going to play Monday. Celtics looked terrible in games 4 and 5. Couldn't close out a bad Hawks team. Who knows? Embiid's LCL. Who knows if he comes back for game 2? Does he re-injure it in game 3 when he returns? A lot of question marks there. The Heat are thinking now, there's a path to the NBA Finals that has opened up for us. They're not the favorites. They're not looking past the Knicks. They're not looking past the Celtics. It would be a really tough matchup. And Embiid can still average 35 and 14 in the series. We've seen him play through injuries before. All that being said, Heat up 1-0, second round of the playoffs. Rest of the conference shaky. They already got the number 1 seed out of there. We've seen injuries kind of wreak havoc throughout these NBA playoffs, the Clippers and, suspensions and guys, big stars missing games. Randle not playing. Who knows if he comes back in game 2, if and when he comes back, is he healthy? They have to like their chances now in the series. They've wrestled home court advantage away. So again, thinking big picture, even if Butler's 80%, normally if this was a game 7, I'd say, listen, you put him out there. If you can't go, give me 10 minutes. All that big picture stuff considered, is it possible he wakes up tomorrow, swelling subsides, and he's like 85% of himself, and he says, hey, let's give it a go? Doctors say they're not going to make it worse. Just, even if he does tweak it, you still have 3 more days off. This is real, playoff games. You can't take them for granted. Butler says, listen, you're not keeping me out. I could see it happen, and I definitely won't rule it out. But again, my assumption, we don't see Jimmy Butler play. On the flip side of the coin, the Knicks don't have that luxury. So I do think we
Yeah.
see Randle
Yeah.
return to the lineup, and then we'll figure that out as it goes along. But your thoughts? Do you think Butler plays Tuesday night?
Yeah, and real quick before I answer that, Spoelstra today said that there actually, as we record on Monday, that there won't be an update today. All he was he said during that he's getting around the clock treatment, but that there probably won't be an update until before the game on Tuesday. So perhaps some gamesmanship. I tend to think also, though, even beyond the gamesmanship that's being played, that makes sense why you wouldn't have much of an update today. I think if Butler was in great shape, I think that he would have been like, he would have said something. I don't think Butler is doing well. That ankle injury didn't look good when it happened. He didn't look good trying to
Yes.
muscle it out there. I think that a less tough player would not have finished that game. I think that Butler showed the kind of heart he has by staying out there on the court, even just to be a decoy. So, yeah, I don't think there's a high chance that he plays. I'll agree with you because it's Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to put it on 0. But I think that it's probably, 85% chance he doesn't play. So, and I think that would make sense because you already got the game that you needed. And the Heat have shown that, look, as long as they can get game 1, they feel very comfortable going back home. I mean, that Buck series, they won game 1, and then they lost by like 1,000,000 points in game 2, and it without Giannis playing in that game. And we, that game kind of made a lot of NBA fans and observers feel like, okay, well, even without Giannis, maybe the Bucks have kind of righted themselves, and this is the Bucks team that won on games without Giannis during the season.
And I think that game 2 was probably one of the reasons he didn't play game 3. They felt confident enough, like,
right? Exactly.
Giannis an extra day off, so that might, but that might also be in the Heat's thinking, like, oh, we can't take games for granted because you might need it. But again, I think we're talking about game 2 and just assuming he'll be fine for game 3. If the ankle's bad, he might miss the weekend. Like there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee he's going to come back. It's very difficult to predict ankle injuries. And even when he comes back, does he? That's obviously going to be a major headline talking point for the rest of the season.
Yeah, because I really do feel like, and look, I mean, injuries are injuries, and it happened to every team. I mean, I hope he's healthy. I mean, I want to see these teams play at 100%. So I'm wishing Jimmy Butler well. But like, if Jimmy Butler is what he was in the end of that game, he had no chance. I mean, that to me, I think is relatively clear. I don't know, maybe some people would think that they could win without him. I don't think so. I think he's carried them in this postseason. He was a big part of why they won, or at least they had the lead in that fourth quarter before he got hurt. And then Lowry and Bam, Gabe Vincent kind of took him to the finish line. I don't think they can have the luxury of saying, oh, well, we could survive, the rest of the series without him or him playing, 50%. They're going to need him close to 100%. So this is a huge storyline. I agree. I don't think he plays. You got to rest him. There's such a long layoff now that we're in the semifinals with these big, almost 4 days before the next game. I don't see any reason to play him. So I think he sits. In terms of Knicks adjustments, though, because the Knicks are going to have to play better regardless of whether or not Jimmy Butler is out there or not. Randle will obviously be an important one. But I think one of the things that I think kind of got lost in the shuffle of that game that they lost on Sunday was the Knicks stopped running. I thought the Knicks really got it going, especially in the first quarter by getting out in transition. And it's kind of like what we saw in the second half of the Cleveland series in game 5. It kind of carried over into game 1. Obi Toppin's running the break, Archie Barrett's running the break. And it's almost like, again, if you're prepared to play against the Knicks with Julius Randle, then Obi Toppin's out there running the floor, and all of a sudden they're running and gunning. It's like this is an entirely different team than the team he prepared for. I think the Heat kind of were not shook, as you said, and I agree. But they kind of were like, oh, this is kind of maybe not what we were expecting. So I think the Knicks got to get back to that, regardless of Randle plays or not. Like, they got to get some points in transition. This is a very good defensive team, and as we saw, if they want to turn off the paint, they can turn off the paint. They're so good in their principles. They have so many good individual defenders. To think that the Knicks can just ISO their way and one-on-one their way through beating this team is going to be a tall order, because as you saw down the stretch, they just seem to have another level they can get to defensively where it's okay, RJ and Brunson, you guys have had your way for 3 quarters. All right, fourth quarter, no more. So if that's going to happen, the Knicks going to have to find a way to score in other ways. I want to see them get back into the open floor more. And I want to see more minutes from Quentin Grimes. I know he hasn't necessarily rewarded the Knicks with playing time, given how he's played in this postseason. But the Knicks are going to need shooting, and they cannot afford to just go, stretches and stretches of. There was a stretch where they hadn't made a 3 in like 8 minutes at one point. Like, they cannot go those long stretches where they just don't make any shots. They got to get somebody out there who can go out there and shoot, We know Quentin Grimes can get hot and he can make shots. So if they're going to struggle, he needs to play more. He played 10 minutes his first game back, so maybe want to ease him in. That can't happen anymore. He's got to play his 20 to 25 minutes a night. And especially this could be a good game for him to get his rhythm, because if Jimmy Butler does not play, that'll mean that you don't have this idea of, I got to match Hart's minutes with Grimes with Jimmy Butler. I can, just play how I normally would. So I think that those are some of the key adjustments I would have. But what do you think about some of the adjustments Tom will have to make?
I was definitely going to bring up the Grimes point, and also Barrett did a relatively good job defending Butler as well on certain sessions.
And he normally does. Yeah,
he does. I thought we'd see primarily, especially when Hart was in the game, he shadowed his minutes in the first half essentially. But even when they were both on the floor, Barrett took some opportunities to guard Butler, which I thought was interesting. So that kind of and Grimes is also capable of defending Butler for possessions. But yes, I agree that Grimes has to get more minutes. Whether that takes a few minutes away from Hart, whether it takes a few more minutes away from IQ, you got to figure out a way to get him on the floor, especially if Quickly's not hitting shots. I toyed with the idea of do you have to limit Quickly's minutes? Maybe get McBride in there. But again, the Knicks have done a good job defensively. I don't think you necessarily need to go in that direction. Outside of Butler, there's not really a penetrating point guard like Darius Garland type dude on Miami. So I think you just have to live and die with Quickly. He helped. He got you there. He brought you to the dance by playing like the sixth man of the year through 82 games of the regular season. You kind of just have to hope he snaps out of it. Maybe run some more action to try to get him some open looks. Tell him to be more aggressive. But he has been taking a decent amount of shots. He's just not making them. So we'll see how that plays out. But yes, I agree. Again, make or miss. Knicks were, one of the reasons the Heat were comfortable daring the Knicks to shoot from the perimeter is because the Knicks finished 20th in the league in 3-point percentage, below league average in the regular season. We talked about how badly they've shot in the playoffs. It's a sensible and not shocking, considering they're matched up against one of the best tactician head coaches in the NBA. Spo daring them to beat them. So there, for that reason alone, you got to get Grimes in there. To your pace point, totally agree, especially when you have Obi in the lineup and not Randle.
Yeah.
But then we got to talk about assuming Randle comes back. That's a factor. You got to, is he rusty? We've seen him, play well in his first game back. They played well that first half of game one, played well in game 5 before he got injured. But that's another kind of twist and turn. We'll see how it goes. So 2 questions for you. Do you think Randle plays? What odds would you put on Randle playing Tuesday night? And would you consider inserting Grimes back into the starting lineup and having Hart come off the bench?
Yeah, so on the Randle thing, I think the odds of him playing, I don't know. I don't know if they're as high as other people would say. I think it's more 50-50. I think he's hurt. I think he's one of those guys. Randle has shown that if he can go, he plays. He's a durable guy. He's a guy that plays through nicks and knacks. So the fact that he did not go and he even tried to work out and he still couldn't go, that doesn't leave me feeling well that a day later, essentially, one day off, then we're back at it. He's ready to go. I think that if I had to guess, I would say no. I think that he plays in game 3. I think the Jimmy Butler injury, I know you said that, that the Knicks don't have that luxury, and I agree. But I think the Jimmy Butler injury, they will think the opposite. They'll think, well, Butler's not playing. We should beat this team without Jimmy Butler.
Right.
So if Randle can get a full week now to get that ankle ready for some big games in Miami where we're tied 1-1.
So you think if the Knicks won game 1, he definitely wouldn't play in game 2? Is kind of
absolutely not. I don't think there's no way he plays game 2. They would have won. I think that the loss makes it more interesting, and I think it makes it more dire. If Jimmy Butler was 100%, I think that he played. But I think that things are a little different now, and I don't think that he's right. So if I had to guess, I'd say no. I don't think he's ready. I know. Even the fact that Obi Toppin in the postgame said that he really was not told about what Randle's status was, which I don't think is good. To me, if he was right, they tell him, he'll be probably good in a day or 2, or maybe he'll start today, but you'll be, you're probably back on the bench or for game 2. The fact that they didn't even tell him anything, he just learned before the game that he's not going. You're starting. I'm like, man, they really were trying to push it to the very end to see if they could get him to play, and he couldn't play. So I don't feel great about where Randle is, but I do think they can win game 2 without him especially if Jimmy Butler is hobbled or playing. Whether he plays or not, I think that they can win this game because I don't think that he's right. And I really think what I saw in the first series is going to kind of like inform how the Heat will approach it. Like they're an older team. They, as we kind of saw with the Warriors, like you only got a certain amount of bullets in the chamber when you get to a certain age. And they played a hard, tough game one, and they earned the win. They played better than the Knicks. So I think that in a game where they don't have to win, that they're going to go out there and play with that kind of desperation in game two, knowing their star is hurt or hobbled or maybe not even playing. That would surprise me. I mean, they're the Heat, so we know they got great culture and all that stuff, but I think that the Knicks should be fine. So it's going Tuesday will be very interesting. There's a lot of variables that we just won't know until game time, really.
Yeah, I would say, and I hear a lot of people saying, not just Knicks fans, but kind of national media, this feels like a game two blowout, like a 20-point Knicks win.
Yeah.
We saw the Bucks win. Heat probably without Jimmy Butler, the desperate team. They've played well all postseason. They played well all year. It's very uncommon for a home team, higher seeded team, to lose the first two games of a series. And while all that's true, game two makes me nervous. Even if Butler's not missing, the Heat would be 100% playing with house money. This is, they literally, just nobody would expect them. Knicks would probably be double-digit favorites in the game, or somewhere around there. And my concern would be the Knicks would be tight in that spot, knowing that this is the first time this group has played a must-win game. Again, they didn't play a game 6 against Cleveland. They didn't play a game 7 against Cleveland.
They never trailed in the series.
They basically never trailed the entire series, even in any games. After
right, except for game 2,
didn't have any must-win end of regular season games, to qualify for the postseason, anything like that. Where the Heat have been playing essentially must-win games for a month now,
and they've lost a lot of them. They lost a lot of them too. So they know what it's like to lose. They know what it's like to win. Like they've been through it all.
So that game 2 worries me. That being said, obviously the Knicks should win. But one thing I will point out. Knicks have never, in their franchise history, have never won a series in which they've lost game 1 at home. They're 0-7 all time. Take that for what it's worth. Make no mistake about it. Randle or no Randle, Knicks need to show up, play hard, play desperate, and obviously win on Tuesday.
Yeah, 2013 Knicks team lost that game 1 to the Pacers at home at Madison Square Garden. And that led to them losing that series, a series that a lot of people think should have won. So, here we are again. This is not good for the home team to lose game 1. Usually it's a very bad omen, but all it means is you could be a team that makes history. So that's the way the Knicks got to approach it. And with the Butler injury, I think this makes this series kind of still very kind of undetermined of how this will go moving forward. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest podcast ventures. Links will be in the descriptions. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.